Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Mafia: The Old Country, which came out in August 2025. Now, I got to get my biases out right up front with this one. I love the Mafia series. I was a big fan of the first one, having it actually be the first mature rated game that I ever played when it came back in 2002. Now, I honestly played that game way earlier than I should have, but still, that game made a big impact on me and absolutely led to me having the drive and love that I have for video games in the modern day. That led me to really love Mafia 2 and actually put it in one of my top 10 video games of all time. And although I have some pretty conflicting opinions on Mafia 3, I think the entire package is a great trilogy. Now, that goes to say that back in 2022, when they remade Mafia 1, I was all over it. And I'm actually a proud owner of the trophy for beating that game on classic difficulty because it was just so fun to experience all over again. And introducing that classic difficulty from old games was just so fun to revisit. But with that being said, I put about 12 hours into this game. I really loved the story, and I think I'm going to go back to try and get the platinum trophy with it. So, with that being said, let's get right into what the good, the bad, and the value are for this game. In Mafia: The Old Country, you play as Enzo, a boy who works in the mines for the Spadaro family. Now, he ends up going through an accident in the caves, and because of that, he runs away so that way he doesn't face repercussions from the family. He's actually saved and rescued and protected by a rival family, the Teresi family. This family takes him in, he works up the ranks, and he's able to make himself a part of the family, just like the classic Mafia story as it's been told so far. This game was fun and I really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to see what else Hangar 13 may have to provide after this game is over.
Enzo. I've seen dogs with more restraint. The Don butchers all the meat himself. I'll let him know you appreciate his work.
Right away, the first thing that you notice with this game is the visuals. The lighting, the characters, the environment, everything looks fantastic. The character designs actually feel like they belong in the 1904 to 1907 Italy setting. And honestly, this might be one of the coolest parts of the game. Being able to experience not only how these characters lived back in the day, but also how their culture worked and what they would do back in early 1900s Italy is just not something I've experienced in video games before. There's a lot of games that talk about the Wild West or bring you to different time periods, but a not so distant past Italy is just something different, and I really enjoyed it. These character designs are strongly complemented by excellent acting, voice acting, and motion capture. Now, these characters are believable. I loved the story, and although some of the characters may have made decisions that I didn't really understand based off how they were portrayed, I still overall loved how these characters were written. I think that they look good, I think that they sound good, and I think that the story that they were able to put on was just one of the best parts of this game. And in 2025, where there's a lot of narrative based games, this one really stood out to me. And I found myself wanting to know what was going to happen next. And it really kept me engaged and coming back to the game.
Andiamo.
So, where is our first stop?
It's number 8, signorina. Just up ahead.
In comparison to other Mafia games, the difficulty in this game is not very daunting. I played on the hardest difficulty and I died maybe 10 or 12 times. If you've played the previous Mafia games, you can know that these games can be difficult, but the game does recognize that and it is able to give you some type of in-game reward for playing those previous games. This was so exciting to me because being able to drive around Italy in Tommy Angelo's Taxi or being able to use Vito Scoletta's Colt 1911 in 1904 Italy was just fun. I felt overpowered and it was a great callback to some really fun games. The gameplay is broken down into three main categories. You have driving, shooting, and interacting with other people to progress the story. Each one of those are a strong point in this game. The driving in this game feels great. You're driving period accurate vehicles that feel like they're struggling to get up hills. Now, back in the early 1900s, especially in Italy, they didn't have the best technology, the best engines, and driving these very heavy cars that really struggled to turn was fun. It was exhilarating. And when I was able to get these things up to speed, trying to slow them down was a blast being able to crash and drive all over this landscape, this massive hilly landscape that is Sicily. I had a really fun time with the driving. The gunplay also feels good. You're shooting, again, accurate weapons for the time period. And although they're a little bit more accurate than they should, it just feels fun. And overall, the gameplay was just a big positive for me. Now, I will say that sometimes the game does come to a halt, but interacting with characters is still fun because of the way that they are portrayed and the way that they are acted. And I had a lot of fun talking to people, even when the story would slow down almost to a halt, and it never took too long for it to pick back up again.
Isabella.
Look who I bumped into.
Enzo. Quite a coincidence. I'm sure you have things to be doing. Come, Isabella.
Although the combat feels good and I really had a fun time using these different weapons, I have to say the controls in this game are not where they should be. Now, my favorite genre of games is racing games, and I gotta say, in most games that I play, square is the handbrake. In this game, square has you jump out of the vehicle. This was very frustrating because there's a lot of times where you have to focus on what you're doing and when you're driving because of the hilly terrain and the unreliability of the vehicles because of the time period that you're in. And sometimes I would pull the handbrake to try a brake or take a short turn, and my character would just jump out of the car. It was frustrating and actually caused me to fail a few missions here and there. In addition to that, in order to change weapons, you have to hold down the L1 button and use one of the symbol buttons on the controller to choose a different weapon. I found this to be something that's different than what I've been trained to do in video games for the last 10, 15 years. It was odd, and it also takes a while for your character to change weapons. This caused me to be in a pinch quite a few times in some really intense combat, and although it didn't completely break the experience for me, it was something that frustrated me on multiple occasions. Now, with that being said, I love the driving in this game. I think it makes sense. I love driving the period accurate vehicles, and I love dealing with the struggles of the hilly terrain and seeing these vehicles struggle with the basics of what we've come to know. But I do have to say, there's a lot of driving in this game. And although you can skip the driving in most parts, you can just teleport to your destination. If you want to enjoy the scenery or experience the vehicles, you have to drive there. And there's no mini map. I had to pause the game multiple times to find out that I just missed my turn and I have to turn around and go back because there's no way for me to figure out where to go unless I just memorize the map. I found that this really broke up my experience because if I have to pause the game every few minutes just to make sure I didn't miss my turn or to make sure I'm going in the right direction, it really takes you out of it. And I thought that that was a odd choice because the other games had a mini map. I understand this is earlier in history, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you couldn't have a quality of life minimap to help you get through this beautiful terrain that kind of all looks the same because, again, it's not built up. It's early 1900s Italy, and it's very easy to get lost. And the final negative that I have for this game is the knife fights. The first couple were fine. I actually thought it was pretty cool. I had fun parrying and dodging and attacking, but after a while, they just end up being the same. It got to a point where I got so good at these that I was able to beat the last 3 bosses without taking any damage. And I don't know if that's just because I played Expedition 33 and I got really good at parrying, but this game really lacks challenge in these knife fights and also diversity. I felt it really unrewarding to combat this boss that we've been chasing or looking for a long part of the game to just have it be resorted to something that I did in the first 10 minutes when they introduced the gameplay mechanic. It can get so repetitive that there's actually a part in the game where you have to fight the same person 3 times in a row, back to back to back. And this is a pretty important character that you're combating, and it just didn't land for me.
Anyone else? No?
Now, overall, those are very minor complaints. I paid $50 for Mafia the Old Country, and it took me about 12 hours to get through the story. I think it's worth that price. And after looking online, there are quite a few Black Friday deals where you can get this game for as little as 30 bucks. And if you can find it for that price, or even sticker price for $50, I'd say get it. I recommend this game to anybody who likes anything from driving, gunplay, narrative driven games, or anything even close to that. I love the Mafia games, and I've been enjoying them for the past almost 2 decades. And if you can get yourself in on the franchise by playing this game, I think it's a great start. But I also think it complements the other games well and is a good addition to the overall narrative that Hangar 13 has been providing for the last decade. But as always, that's just my experience. So if you liked it, let me know in the comments. If you didn't like it, also let me know in the comments. Maybe you had a good experience, maybe you didn't. I really enjoy this series, and I can recognize my bias. So if other people didn't like it as much as I did, then let me know. That's why I think it's actually good that this game came out at a reasonable price tag of $50. But if you like this video, please make sure that you hit the like button so hard that you crack the screen on your phone or the screen on your TV or the screen on your tablet just to show YouTube how much you liked it, and subscribe. And I look forward to talking to you guys in the next one.